take place at an ever-increasing pace. Increased life expectancy and a materially secure existence add significantly to the quality of our lives. Yet the gap between the state of scientific insights and public knowledge is as big as ever. This is worrying because it makes it difficult for citizens to make informed choices in a democratic decision process. Even more worrying is the decline in interest among young people in the natural sciences, which is now beginning to percolate through the higher education system, eroding the talent base for industry as well as for research laboratories. This is the threat. In a society which increasingly depends on science and technology, how are we to meet the challenges of the future without a growing, high-quality scientific workforce? Governments all over Europe have come to understand the potential but severe threat to our society that is buried in the rift between science and society. CERN, EFTA, EMBL, ESA, ESO, ESRF and ILL, the large European research centres forming the vanguard of European science, have joined forces in an attempt to reach out to the public at large. A tangible result of this collaboration is a coherent educational initiative that began with the highly visible Physics on Stage festival held at CERN in Geneva in the year 2000. Based on the experience of this event, a new meeting, Physics on Stage 2, was held at the European Space Research and Technology Centre of the European Space Agency in Noordwijk in the Netherlands. The theme of this meeting was Focus on Teachers, underlining the key role that teachers and the education system play as the main interface to the young generation. Before the meeting got underway, the national delegates installed themselves at their stands in the large fair area. The fair is a main element of the concept for the Physics on Stage festival and the place for informal discussion between delegates, exchange of practical ideas and teaching methods, and demonstrations by individual teachers of teaching aids. In parallel, special guided tours of the large Estec site gave the participants a first chance to familiarize themselves with the cornerstone site of the European Space Agency, where almost 2,000 scientists and engineers develop and test new spacecraft. Surely this environment offered both an appropriate backdrop and an exciting perspective for the meeting before the participants gathered in the Physics on Stage auditorium for the formal opening.
The Physics on Stage number 2 is taking place now in Estec here, and I'm very happy that you're here.
Following an introduction by Professor Wubbo Ockels, head of ESA's Education Office, and a welcome speech by Gail Winters, director of Estec, Mr. Luc Hermans, the Dutch Minister for Research, Culture and Science, gave the opening address. He emphasized the need to attract young people to science and technology at a time when they're sensitive to the topic and that innovative approaches are called for.
Examples how we can catch the young people for science. Thank you very much.
To underscore the fact that modern physics is a science with very practical implications, the opening signal was given as Mr. Hermans launched a water rocket to the delight and enjoyment of everyone present.
2, 1, full.
After the opening ceremony, Mr. Hermans paid a visit to the Physics on Stage fair, which had already developed into a lively marketplace of ideas. The Physics on Stage Festival is an innovative attempt to tackle the impending crisis in physics teaching. The festival comprises 4 elements: the fair, already mentioned, the so-called special performances, showcasing the excitement and wonder of physics, typically quite elaborate staged presentations, the workshops, providing a forum for serious debate, and finally the European Science Teachers Awards, given for the first time to acknowledge outstanding contributions to science teaching. The Secret of Bubbles, a spectacular showing of soap bubble experiments with a story of scientific controversy, was the first of 6 on-stage performances that had been selected on the basis of nominations from the national committees in the 23 countries taking part in the event. Special funding was made available for the realization of these performances, carrying titles such as The Art of Magic, A Restaurant at the End of the Universe, The Space Puppets, or The World of Archimedes.
I'll explain to you, but only if I have a little more peace and quiet.
The performances were supplemented by presentations, also given on the stage of the Physics on Stage auditorium. Many of them contained spectacular demonstrations. The purpose of these was to inform participants of the best teaching methods and materials as identified through the national events.
Mercury first.
A comet's tail contains gas.
In a sense, the fair was the heart of the festival. A host of practical hands-on demonstrations by innovative teachers provided inspiration for teachers searching for new ways to teach physics. And just a couple of minutes in this bustling fair would certainly convince even the most skeptical visitor that physics is fun and exciting, and at times quite surprising. At the fair, even experienced physics teachers were put to the test to explain some of the physical phenomena demonstrated here. Importantly, the fair evolved to become a dynamic marketplace for ideas and materials, exposing the participants to new teaching materials and practical demonstrations, some of which will undoubtedly find their way into classrooms in countries far beyond their origin. What are the underlying reasons for the present problems in physics teaching? How are the practical working conditions for Europe's teachers, and hence their possibilities for improving the teaching offered to their pupils? Which teaching approaches should be given priority? How can the European science organizations help teachers? These were some of the points raised in the 11 workshops, the third key element of the festival. The workshops were asked to formulate specific recommendations to the education authorities and the European organizations, including the European Commission, whose representatives were also present.
Some of these presentations are a television and a video recorder.
Physics students, I mean that's not a sensible objective, that's a rationale for action.
A unanimous view that physics...
Oral reports from the workshop were given on the last day of the meeting at a plenary session, attended by the European Commissioner for Research, Mr. Philippe Busquin.
So really, don't forget the real experiments.
The Commissioner listened to the arguments and proposals with great interest.
Goes out a year or a few weeks or a few months.
This developed into a spontaneous and lively debate between the delegates and Monsieur Busquin. As at most conferences, one of the most fruitful elements was the personal face-to-face interaction, also outside the formal activities. In spite of the dense program, the festival included time for relaxation and socializing. For example, at the welcome reception, held at the Erasmus User Center for the International Space Station, and during the visit to Space Expo, Estec's spectacular visitor center.
Because if you can awaken the magic of science to open the eyes.
That science education is increasingly an issue on the political agenda was evident from the visits by politicians from Spain, the United Kingdom and Austria. Politicians and administrators had a fine opportunity to sense the festival's potential for stimulating innovative teaching in Europe. At the same time, teachers had the chance to interact directly with decision makers, adding yet another aspect to the event. With the title Focus on Teachers, what did they like about the festival?
Probably two things. I have enjoyed the ideas that I've seen from the presentations and from the workshops, and I've also enjoyed meeting people from so many countries.
Most important for me is to get the new ideas, to come back to my school and show my students new ways of teaching.
I think it's fantastic to meet educators from all over Europe. I've got a lot of new ideas, and I hope I've spread some of the Swedish ideas as well.
And should Physics on Stage be continued?
Yes, and I would really like to come again.
Yes, to repeat many times, not only one.
I was on Physics on Stage #1, and this is the second time, and I would like it to continue.
What we want to transmit to our students, after all, is our tremendous excitement about science.
The closing of the festival was marked by two highlights. A fascinating lecture by Physics Nobel laureate Gerard 't Hooft, and the awards ceremony for the European Physics Teaching Awards for outstanding examples of innovative teaching.
The one that you voted for in particular.
The prizes were handed over by European Commissioner Philippe Busquin. 3,000 euros were given to the Danish performance of Physik Show.
Cheers, everybody.
János Márki-Zay of Hungary received the second prize of 5,000 euros for his original demonstrations, including the model of Márki-Zay type electromagnetic straws. Finally, Spanish teacher Miguel Cabrerizo and his son Isaac received the main award with 10,000 euros for their series of experiments titled Recreative Physics XXL. Though awarded for the very first time, the prize is certain to become a prestigious and widely appreciated acknowledgement, providing much-deserved recognition for physics teachers.
And we also had the Aeroforum organizations all involved.
Providing a meeting place for teachers from all over Europe, enabling them to exchange information and experience and to learn from each other, opening the door to cutting-edge science and technology and to interact with administrators and politicians. These were the aims of the Physics on Stage 2 festival.
Turn your hands with the palm.
Bringing together almost 400 educators from 23 countries, the Physics on Stage 2 festival carried forward the successful educational activities of Europe's leading research centers. It underscored the commitment of these organizations to make a serious, long-term contribution to alleviate some of the problems currently hampering Europe's educational systems. Many ways must be pursued in order to solve these problems. It will require a concerted effort by all of those who are working towards the common goal of improving science education in Europe's schools. The Physics on Stage concept constitutes an innovative approach and a highly appreciated part of this effort.